Sir, in applying the rules of use of force and use of reasonable force, it's the officer has to consider the totality of circumstances. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And one of the circumstances can be the location. That could be important. Is that right?
Yes.
And are you aware that there was a group of bystanders who eventually began to watch the defendant and the other officers use force on Mr. Floyd?
Yes.
Now, sir, in your experience with the Los Angeles Police Department and in the areas you were patrolling, have you ever had to use force or apply force or handcuff a suspect in the view of bystanders?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever had to handcuff an unwilling suspect or subject in the view of bystanders?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever had to do so in the presence of a hostile crowd?
Yes, sir.
Could you define a hostile crowd in that context?
I would define hostile crowd in the situations I've been in where the crowd or members of the crowd were threatening and or throwing bottles and rocks at us, at the police.
Have you had that experience?
Yes, sir.
On more than one occasion?
Yes.
Okay. So if I could publish Exhibit 184, and getting back to the circumstances of this case, this appear to be the bystanders that were gathered watching the defendant apply force to Mr. Floyd.
Yes, it does.
When you reviewed the body-worn cameras, did you see anybody throw any rocks or bottles?
No, I did not.
Did you see anyone physically attack the officers?
No, I did not.
Did you hear foul language or name calling?
There was some name calling, yes, but and some foul language, but that was about the most of it.
Did that factor into your analysis?
No.
Why not?
Because I did not perceive them as being a threat.
And why is that?
Because they were merely filming, and most of it was their concern for Mr. Floyd.
And in terms of proportionality in the force continuum, is the officer able to increase the use of force on an individual based on the conduct of some third party over whom the subject has no control?
No, the officers can only use force based on the subject's actions.
Do you acknowledge that loud noise and name calling can in fact be distracting?
Yes, it can be.
What does an experienced and trained officer do in the face of that sort of distraction?
They continue to assess and reassess their force, or they would attempt to lower any type of threat level that they may perceive.
Now, based on your review of the offense materials and the records, as of May 25, 2020, how long had the defendant been a Minneapolis police officer?
Approximately 19 years.
And if we can call out, publish Exhibit 203, and if you could highlight the top portion. These appear to be workforce training records of the defendant, is that right?
Yes.
And it indicates approximately 866 hours?
Yes.
Of paid training?
Yes.
Do you think that should have been sufficient training to prepare the defendant for this distraction?
Absolutely.
You take that down, please. Now, sir, but you do acknowledge that it would be possible for a loud group, to distract a defendant from being attentive to George Floyd. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you believe that occurred?
No, I do not.
Why is that?
Because in the body-worn video, you can hear Mr. Floyd displaying his discomfort and pain, and you can also hear the defendant responding to him.